What's going on, casters, and welcome back to, I believe, week 8 of the ECL. This is the match before the last match, before we figure out who's going to the finals of the ECL. Spoilers, I don't think it's going to be me unless there's just some magic that happens. But I do want to go ahead and go over our deck for this week and who our opponent is going to be. It's going to be Cerebro. You guys may remember him as the first winner of the app tournament online. Very, very cool showing there. I believe he won with technically Pin Terror, but it was definitely more of a Sorlet Chrysor build. So that's what he's most known for. But he is a very, very skilled player. I've played with him before. I've played with him off camera before. He's a very, very skilled player, very good at the game, very smart young individual. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the deck for this week. Alright, so I have some quote-unquote spice for you guys this week. We've been having some pretty decent luck with fire, so I am going to try to keep it fire-based this week as well, but I'm going to do something that's more or less unheard of in set 1. And I'm going to be playing bears, more or less. So we're going to be starting off with 3 Earth Scout. Earth Scout is a 1-drop that says when this Earth Scout is destroyed by battle, you can special cast a bear Elestral that costs 1 spirit from your hand or deck. So, very similar to how we were doing the Ignector and the Emphyrix, we're also going to be doing the same sort of strategy with Earth Scout, but we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this week, as you'll see in just a little bit. But this is going to be our recursion as far as an Elestral that can recur Elestrals. It's also going to be thinning our deck, so it's going to be doing 2 functions. It's going to be keeping a body on board and also thinning out our deck so that we see the more important cards faster as well. It's also a cheaper version than either the Ignector or the Emphyrix. We've basically been going cheaper and cheaper each time. Ignector being the most cost that you would use for this scenario, and then Emphyrix being a little bit less, and then Earth Scout being even more a little bit less. So hopefully that helps us out in the long run there. And then we'll be running 3 Kinleo, because this is going to be a Fire Nexus build of sorts. Kinleo is going to be very, very important. It's going to be getting rid of a lot of important cards on their field. It's just going to be it's going to be very useful because of its destruction capability, on top of being able to Nexus things to make our cards even bigger with spirits and things like that. That's going to be very, very important, as you'll see coming up. And then we have the Volcaries, because this is a Fire Nexus build. We're going to be trying to have a lot of spirits on board so that we can have our Volcaries as big as possible. So very, very important there as well. Our opponent does have water, I believe, if I remember right. I think he's earth and water. Spoilers, I have not had time to actually prepare or playtest this deck in any shape or form. This is purely speculation. I'm honestly hoping that he goes for more of an earth build, but if he does go water, I don't know what direction I'll take the deck. But with that being said, if he throws out some tsunamis, that's going to hurt us quite a bit. So hopefully we can come back with some big numbers and things like that. So then I'm going to be running 2 Nekruff. Nekruff just because he's a 5 body and he can get that burn damage, that poke damage. Just a very good, very good card. But I don't really foresee needing more than 2 of him. I'll probably be mainly relying on the Earth Scouts and Kinleos and Volcaries, just so that we can get that guaranteed destruction, that guaranteed body, or almost guaranteed body, because he could Earthquake as well and just get rid of the Earth Scout, although I don't know why he would for just an Earth Scout. But this is Cerebro. He goes off the wall sometimes, and he stays a step ahead of you if he can. So and then we're going to be running one Leonite, because if I can get this out on the field with our boss Elestral, then we'll be sitting pretty, basically. No Earthquakes or Laurels would be absolutely amazing. So if I can get this, the goal would probably be just to not attack with it and just sit on it as long as possible. Just so that we can have that protection. But then we will be running, as I said, we're playing bears. We'll be running 3 copies of Majursa. I love Majursa here because it not only gets a plus in attack for any bears that might be on the field, but it also is a 12/12. So it's going to be very difficult for our opponent, even if this gets tsunami'd or Altar of Stars or something like that. It's going to be very difficult for our opponent to get over that, especially if we have a a stadium card on the field. It's going to be very hard for our opponent to get over that, especially if we can somehow get Leonite out there as well. Then that would be just the golden board with Majursa, Leonite, and other cards. So, but then that's going to be our Elestral lineup. I'm hoping that this plays very well. As I said, the main goal of this is Fire Nexus, so that we can get Majursa out there as soon as possible. But if that's not the case, then that's not the case, and we'll have to come back with something else. In theory, this works, but we shall see. And then moving on to the runes, we run 3 Hephaestus. Literally all Hephaestus is here for is to be a Nexus bank. He's there to hold onto our spirits so that we can use them for Nexus, or so that we can use them for other cards like counter runes and things like that. So literally just here to be a Nexus bank. He can make our Volcaries very, very powerful, very, very fast. So just Volcaries Hephaestus is a very aggressive play. He's an easy play for the Nexus with Kinleo. Basically, there's no downside to just throwing our spirits onto this Hephaestus in this particular matchup, unless our opponent plays Equalinks. That would be about the only way, I believe, I could be mistaken, but about the only way that they could really get over us in that sense. So then we're going to be running 3 Volcanic Forge. Basically the same thing as Hephaestus. It's going to be there for Nexus Bank, and or it's going to be boosting our Elestrals up by quite a bit while we're Nexusing things around and gaining spirits. So very, very slept on card. Stadiums are pretty slept on, but that's going to be that. And then the next thing is I'm very uncomfortable with this decision of only having 2 Ambrosia. That's unheard of in any set 1 deck that I've ever built, except for this one. Simply because I felt like we needed a lot of other cards, much more. But that being the case, there is only 2 Ambrosia. I believe I have a 3rd sided in the side deck, but I don't know. I just don't feel like there's much room that I could make in this particular build, trying to get Majursa out and everything like that, to where I could afford a 3rd Ambrosia. And it really hurts me to say that, but that's the case. And because this is a Nexus build, we are playing the 3 copies of Circle the Sky so that we can Nexus onto our Elestrals and draw a card. Very, very good card in the Nexus builds, and it's kind of my draw power to swear by in Nexus builds. So, and then we're going to be running 3 Resting on Your Laurels in case our opponent starts getting ahead of us. Then we definitely need to come back with the Resting on Your Laurels. It's as simple as that. Like we don't have access to the Earthquakes. Our opponent has access to both of these, Resting on Your Laurels and Earthquake. So that's going to be a very dangerous scenario for us. But hopefully that doesn't come into play and we can just pop off. And then we run the 1 poison tipped arrow. It could be argued that you could trade this out for a 3rd ambrosia, but I feel like the sort of guaranteed destruction in a sense with if he plays the Viscerus, or if he plays the then if he plays Viscerus and it's just a Viscerus and it's not the field spell, or excuse me, I keep saying field spell, I'm sorry, it's the Stadium. If he plays the Viscerus without the Stadium or without Demeter, boosting up with Demeter, then Poison Tipped Arrow can guarantee that our little bear will stay on the field, because if he just plays Viscerus, then it'd be a 5, -2 is 3 defense on the bear, so he's sitting pretty. So I feel like that's a really good card to have, but not the most important card. And we do have that option of expending 1 if he does do that as well, just to go ahead and get rid of it. Then we're going to be running 2 Shield of Achilles. Very, very different lineup from our previous match. We had 3s across the board. We had 3-3-3s. We had to cram cards in here to make room for more important cards, but then all the cards are really important, so very, very difficult to come up with a lineup that made a lot of sense to me. But I landed on 2 Shield of Achilles because, in a similar fashion to Poison Tipped Arrow, it's very, very good against certain cards, keeps our cards safe, and makes our opponent essentially pay for equal what we put out, unless it's a big scary card. So if our opponent plays a 1-drop, we bounce a 1-drop, that's 2 from us because we activate and expend, that's 2. They played the 1-drop and then they have to replay the 1-drop, that's 2, so it evens out and we get to keep our cards safe. So in that sort of scenario, or in that sort of ratio, I really enjoy Shield to at 2 in this particular sense. So but then we're going to be running 3 Altar of Stars, because again, this is a Nexus build, so we want to keep our Elestrals safe as possible. So we're going to be turning those Viscerus, or turning those Galaxy, or what have you, to defense mode, and hopefully getting to Nexus things as well. So if we have a bear out here, for instance, and we have our Hephaestus or Stadium, we can just Altar of Stars, put the spirit onto the bear, and hopefully just go ahead and ascend into Majursa our next turn. So that's the main goal for that. Then we're going to be running 2 Pandora's Box. Similarly to the Shield, this could stop our opponent from getting certain cards. If our opponent is searching out cards with Rummagem, or searching out cards with their Viscerus, we can go ahead and just negate that and then send the top 2 cards of our opponent's deck to the graveyard, or to the underworld. And then to round it all off, we of course have the 3 Gorgon's Gaze, because Gorgon's Gaze is the best card in set 1. It just says no to whatever your opponent tries. If your opponent tries to attack you, you say no. If your opponent tries to get an effect off that could hurt you, you say no. If your opponent tries to Nexus, Ascend, anything, no. So Gorgon's Gaze is the best card in set 1, hands down, and so we run 3 of it. And then for our spirits, we are going to be running absolutely nothing but fire. This is a fire Nexus build, so we need as much fire as possible. So that's going to be that, just 20 fire. And then to finalize it, our side deck is going to be 1 Shield of Achilles, 1 Pandora's Box, 1 Ambrosia, 1 Nectar of the Gods, 1 Rise from the Ashes, 2 Poison Tipped Arrow, 1 Necruff, 2 Bag of Winds, and 2 Lycris for those said Bag of Winds. That's going to be it. That's going to be the deck profile. Alright, so that's going to be our Majursa, aka our Bear's Nexus, our Bear Nexus deck. Hopefully it works out, hopefully it's aggressive enough, hopefully our opponent just doesn't have the answers to this deck and just doesn't even expect this deck to work. I don't know how well it's going to be. I actually don't even know how well our opponent's matches have gone. I've had such little preparation for this match, unfortunately. So this is purely speculation, and I'm hoping that we can do well. But with that being said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Hopefully we do well. Let me know what you guys would have changed about the deck. Let me know what you guys look forward to most about the deck, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.